Hey everyone, my name is Amir, and my tech set project for this semester is about the joy of reading. So, the joy of reading, it consists of like reading books. Maybe you like reading books because they're funny. Maybe you like reading books because they have some sort of like mysterious or like some magical journey. Or maybe you like reading books because it just helps you learn. And for my read aloud, I chose a book on Abraham Lincoln, The Boy Who Loved Books. And this book basically talks about Abraham Lincoln as a child. He just loved reading and he would plow the farms. And he says that one day he just said that this is not my dream. And so every time he would get tired of plowing the farm, he would just have like a little book in his back pocket and he would just take it out and just start reading. And then as when he became 19, he was sailing through the river and he just noticed on the right side that they had an auction sale. And at this auction sale, they had basically slaves, and he just saw people bidding on slaves and everything, and he it wasn't right to him. So he just picked up a lot of books about law and everything, and he studied himself, and that's why he basically got to become a president. And he said that words basically can change a person like in their whole entirety. And I'm gonna read this book to you and show you why reading is really important. And if it's not because they're funny or anything else, at least take it to the fact that reading can bring a lot of joy simply through just knowledge or history. And let's get to it. So, Abraham Lincoln, The Boy Who Loved Books by Kay Winters. So, in the wilds of Kentucky, 1809, a boy was born. His mother called him Abraham, his last name Lincoln. His bed was made from corn husks, his covers skins from bears, his cabin built with logs from towering trees. Abe said his first words in that one-room cabin, took his first steps on hard dirt floor. A wood fire chased the cold and cooked corn pone. The door swung, open shut, one leading hinges, a tiny window looked out on his world. When he was two, his folks packed their few goods, moved Abe and his sister Sarah to Knob Creek. The Cumberland Trail ran close to their new cabin. Abe saw peddlers, pioneers, politicians, traders, slaves pass by. As Abe grew, he talked to travelers, heard where they'd been, where they were going. He saw their world as wider than his own. His ideas stretched, his questions rose, his dreams were stirred. At school, he worked with numbers 1 to 10. He shaped his letters A to Z with a charcoal stick. He wrote them down day in, day out, in school, at home. In dust, in snow, on logs of wood, the letters cast a magical spell. He loved to learn. Interesting, Abe. Okay, so we're gonna skip to this part because from when he was in school all the way here, it just talks about like good old Abe when he was out on the farms and everything, and it leads up to this point right here. When school was shut, Abe hired out to farmers. His father kept the earnings for the family. Abe split rails, dug wells, chopped trees, but all while he worked. He yearned to learn. To anyone who'd listen, he liked to say, "The things I want to know are in books." Once, oops, once rain leaked through the cabin roof and soaked a book he'd borrowed For 3 hot days, Abe pulled stacks of corn in his friend's field to pay him back. So not only did he work tremendously hard if he ever had his books damaged, on top of that, if you notice, in all of these pictures, what does he do? He has a book. See, on the top, he's cutting logs. On the bottom, he's taking a break to read. All he does, from this moment on, all he does is focus his life on reading books. Oops, sorry about that. When Abe plowed a book sat in his back pocket, at each row's end, he'd take it out and read. His horse would wait for him to turn the page. The neighbors shook their heads and called him lazy. So apart from reading, they thought he was a lazy person. Interesting. They did not understand this bookish boy. Abe knew he must move on, out of the wilderness. Splitting rails and plowing land was not his dream. This is the interesting part. At 19, he pulled a flatboat down the river, saw people in places beyond backwoods, saw black men, women, and their children bound in chains. A sign above their heads read, "Auction Block." A life for sale like hatchet, axe, or plow. Abe knew it was unjust to own another. See, here we have the auction going on, and Abe is flowing through the river. This is where his inspiration to read sparked even more. New Salem, Illinois was where Abe settled. 100 folk or more lived in this place. He hired on to run the general store. Folks like to tell that once he overcharged someone 6 cents, but honest Abe walked miles to give it back. Look at that. Not even a single penny he would steal. Even here, Abe was asked to prove his worth with brawn, not brains. The owner of Abe's store set up a wrestling match against the leader of a wild and rowdy gang. Reluctantly, Abe took Jack Armstrong on. Some said that Abe pinned Jack to the floor. Others swore Armstrong beat Abe with a trick. But when Jack saw Abe's strength, he shook his hand, and they became close friends in years to come. So, it seems that Abraham Lincoln didn't like violence, that he could solve a confrontation with words and with knowledge. By firefight, he studied law without a teacher. Soon, he became a lawyer in the courts. Abe saw that words could free or jail a man. He found that words could change the way folks thought. When politicians began to call his name, Abe aimed his words at wrongs he liked to right. Friends said that he should run for public office. He tried for Congress first and then the Senate. At last, he ran for the highest office in the land. Anyone know what that could be? See that on the right side? Abraham Lincoln, born in a log cabin, child of the frontier, head in a book, elected our 16th president from the wilderness to the White House. He learned the power of words and used them well. And I believe that's it. So this book shows a lot about a person who came from very poor. He was very poor, and he had little to no education, and he basically changed the way, like he just changed a lot about the country.